Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we are back with another live stream of Hearthstone. Today is Wednesday, May 23rd, and we are here streaming. Why does that sound so odd right now? Maybe my ears are a little clogged up. Seems like everything's good on the audio. So, we'll ignore that for now. Cards have been nerfed. So, we talked about this, but they are now live. 1 mana Dark Pact now reads, destroy a friendly minion, restore 4 health to the hero. I believe before it said 8 health. I believe this was a 5 mana, 2 attack, 2 health minion. Now it's a 6 mana if I was to guess, for Possessed Lackey. Could be that it was a 4 mana, could be that it was a 7 mana, or an 8 mana. I doubt though it's even 2 mana points away from what it is now, because I don't think Hearthstone, even Hearthstone, gets that so extremely wrong that they would have to bump something up 2 whole mana cost. Same would be true for this 5 mana spell. Call Arms, recruit 3 minions that cost 2 or less. I bet this was a 4 mana if I was to guess. You could kind of assume that it's going up in cost because they wouldn't actually waste their time and create the controversy of making nerfs if to reduce the cost at the same time. They could do that later. In fact, they did do that later when they introduced the end of the last season year. This is now an 8 mana, 5 attack, 5 health. Your cards now cost 5 mana. You know, come to think of it, there is a strange amount of cards and abilities that make your cards cost 5 mana. And not really anything that changes it to any other costs. Other than a few cards that say your cards now cost 2 less mana. This is, I imagine, a 7 mana character that was a 6 mana reveal spell from your deck, summon a random minion that's the same cost. And then this quest is getting changed to read, play 5 minions with the same name, reward Crystal Core. So, I'm not sure if Crystal Core is changing, because that seems like that was the same as it was, unless it was play 6 minions with the same name, or play 4 minions with the same name. But I don't believe it was 4 minions, because they definitely wanted to make it very difficult to play that number of minions, since you could only have 2 minions in your card collection with the same name. So you would have to play something like Vanish or Shadow Step or some other spell to return a character to your hand. For the most part, there's a totem that summons Murlocs and other cards that summon cards that would have potentially worked. So I'm not particularly bothered by those nerfs. I guess the question would boil down to, are any of those nerfs that we just saw like worth trying to turn into dust? And see, that kind of would only even fall specifically under the class of the Asian account, because it would be only golden cards really that you would want to do that with, or only extra cards that you'd want to do that with. And so you kind of need the whole list, wouldn't you, in front of you. Let's see. Naga the Sea Witch was one of them. Let's see if we have Naga. We have it in crafting. We don't have the caves below. Or the cavern below. So yeah, even if I did have these cards and went and tried to change them, like there's no nerfed keyword, so you can't just search that way. So I would have to have the whole list in front of me. Maybe we'll mess with that later, but we need to get on with it. This is a slow way to start. I didn't look at my daily quest yesterday. I'm kind of getting really bad about not doing that. Not even taking the time to make sure I'm getting the most expensive daily quests, which is probably making daily quests a little bit easier. Random legends and then are cloned 4 times. Alright, so we just want to, with this Tavern Ball, know we need to play either Shaman or Priest if we get a selection. Let's hop in here. Start with Priest. Play those Priest cards. I think we're good to go. I did manage to play a small amount of Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens, but not very much at all. And then I spent a lot more time playing with actual Lego, and this game is teaching me very much that I am just done. I am so done with the Lego games. I was done last time I was done with them. I was done the time before I was done with them, but now it's just like, no. And I know I'll probably get back to it eventually. The Lego's teasing that Lego Villains is gonna come out as the next game, because I just assume they cannot do a Lego Batman 4. They couldn't really even do a Lego Batman 3, to be honest. Next legendary mini plays, and all other copies cost 3. So if I play this next turn, I can play this. But at the moment I need to just end the turn. And I guess I could say that I was doing something kind of emergency and important while playing with the Lego, taking care of a sick person, but for the most part I was just being around in case I was needed, which in all honesty is about all you can do for most sick people. Alright. Oops, I did not think that through. Alright. One copy of a random minion in your deck.
I wonder.
Or summon an awesome invention.
Quickly. By the light.
Let's go ahead and kill one of these guys and end the turn. Gamma Sutra has an article, and frankly it's being reported by everybody. Sony, the PlayStation 4 is entering its final phase of its life cycle. For what they mean final phase, though, they are talking the last 3 years, which still gives you quite a lot of time to for them to work on the PlayStation 5, which almost certainly the PlayStation 5 will be the next big thing. Let's see. Ooh, I'm gonna play this. Do this, so I can do this.
Belongs in a museum.
Oops, I didn't realize I was gonna be the one drawing cards.
Thank you.
By the light.
I won't stand.
There really isn't too much to say with the PlayStation 4 being near the end of its life cycle. We kind of know what PlayStation 5 is going to do. It's not amazingly surprising or confusing as far as what's going to happen there. It's going to be unless Sony does something crazy, it's going to just be a major increment as far as the quality of what the PlayStation 4 is. Stronger video graphics, more RAM, more abilities. Probably slightly better abilities as far as controlling VR, because they are succeeding moderately well with PlayStation VR. The Sony PlayStation 5 will probably be designed in this concept of working sort of with a portable PlayStation, but the PlayStation 5 is almost certainly not going to be a Switch-like device. That would be, whether they call that the Vita 2 or whether they call it something different, they're definitely there definitely is going to be a different type of device that the PlayStation Sony would come out with to be a portable device. And I don't think that's a terrible idea. The craziest thing that could happen is if Microsoft came out with something like the Switch, which wouldn't be totally insane. It would just be called like the Xbox Surface or something along that line.
Servants, soldiers of the cold dark, obey the call of Yel.
Let's hit this
By the light.
and this.
Pray for
In the turn.
That belongs in a museum. That belongs in a museum.
This is a stupidly easy tavern brawl, but it's not helping me play any priest cards. You know, I guess ultimately, if there was an Xbox One Surface device and there was a deal 4 damage.
You win this time.
Oh, I hit all of these cards. Yeah, if there's a Sony Vita 2 and an Xbox One Surface device, both competing at a higher end to make the Switch have to compete even more, that would be amazing. And it might even force Nintendo into making a slightly better home console Switch device too. 4 of those cards, by the way, were extra on my Asian account. Getting classic pack card packs, even for this account, is starting to get to be a little pointless. Well, now for these daily quests, all we need to do is play shaman cards and priest cards, which means we can kind of just play the game. We're at rank 20, so it's not gonna kill me to try and get some ranks up to rank 21, but I doubt it's gonna happen too much. Let's move on to the next story. That was Eurogamer has an article, Bungie, Naughty Dogs, Sony, Santa Monica, and Blizzard talk about crunch. This is one of those articles that might be interested if you're interested in the gaming development world, but frankly, until we see some proof of actual action, I think crunch
For Doomhammer.
may just be a topic that's getting covered by the news and talked about by the news and not actually getting dealt with. And inherently, we may get down to the point where half of the offices that make video games around the world are anti-crunch and don't allow it, but half of the offices do. I heard a report of just how small indie single developers, like people who are their own bosses, are putting themselves into crunch, and that makes no sense at all. For as much as I kind of rag on the developer of Yandere Simulator for the fact that I'm almost 100% certain he's never actually going to get that game finished and released, at the very least, I think he's taking a slightly closer to reasonable time scale when he develops things and manages his time. It doesn't feel like he's killing himself, although he may be crunching and killing himself to develop it, and he may just be completely incapable of finishing the work he's doing for other reasons. So he may not be a good example. It's hard to tell of any good examples or bad examples because all of this happens in the background, and that's what it always boils down to, is crunch could happen in the background like any other kind of workplace abuse can happen in the background, and very few people are going to bring it to light. The Supreme Court in the United States made a pretty bad decision, I hear, disallowing for class action suits against arbitration clauses. So as I understand it, if you are being held to an arbitration clause and you and 50 of your other employees are all getting underpaid, or they're violating some other kind of workplace law, like overworking you, not paying you overtime, things like that, you and those 50 employees, according to the Supreme Court, can't make a class action suit that trumps the arbitration clauses. And arbitration clauses in specific have gotten stronger and more frequently used in the United States as a way of making it very difficult for an employee to be treated correctly. To the point where, like, if I was to ever work for another company, I'm gonna look at any kind of like contract and potentially say, no, I'm not gonna sign this arbitration clause. I refuse. So you either rewrite it, and I'm gonna actually negotiate and say I'm not gonna agree to this, and if you don't want to employ me because of that, fine, I'll walk. And see how desperate people are to actually hire me at that point. Many would call that self-sabotage, but in the end, there's two ways to self-sabotage. One is in the short run by standing up for your rights, and then the other is in the long run by not standing up for your rights and letting people trample all over you. And most people, I would say, self-sabotage by not standing up for their rights. Or even when it's not a right, just standing up for your own value and the demanding to be treated the way you expect to be treated. Moving on, Gematsu, sorry. I'm gonna have to learn how to read today, apparently. Draw a slowest cost minion from your deck. Let's play this. Play the draw card first. Next battle cry triggers twice. Well, at the very least, I'll just play this. Bloodstained Curse of the Moon has been delayed to May 31 for the 3DS in Europe, and it's still June 6 for Xbox One worldwide. No, it's been delayed to June 6 for Xbox One worldwide. All other versions are still planned for the May 24 release. This is really weird because Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, I believe, is the very recently announced spin-off 2D version of the of Bloodstained, which is more of a well, no, they're both 2D versions. It's just that the Moonlight Curse of the Moon is an 8-bit NES, Super NES looking animation, and the other Bloodstained, the big game, is a modern 2.5D type animation where it looks better.
Let's dance.
Both of these in the turn. So it's really crazy to announce something and then immediately delay it, particularly since there was no hype for that game whatsoever. But whatever. Yesterday was the 20-year anniversary for Unreal Gold. Yesterday, at least, it was for free on Steam and Good Old Games. So if you want to get Unreal Gold, I grabbed it. I mean, in general, unless you're trying to keep your Steam library particularly empty, I would say grab it. It's also though one of these games that has no real reason to ever be played. Like it's a hard-pressed, very old-looking game. Looks like maybe just a few months past the development of GoldenEye 64. Excuse me, sorry I didn't have time to mute the mic there. May have to cough some more, so let me think about that and see if I'm gonna need to mute. I was eating peanut M&Ms and I think I may have a peanut stuck in my throat. Although, how did I do all that talking up until this point if that was the case? Like, this guy just needs to be played because he's never gonna not be playable. The Unreal Tournament 2004 Editor's Choice Edition is also on sale. But I think the Epic certainly knows the value of their really old games. And that's the way kind of anything that's an idea and after the first development does not cost anything extra to develop should be. Like, it makes sense that for a while somebody who makes a video game should get paid, but at a certain point it should just go into the public domain, and this isn't a public domain issue, but 20 years down the line, like, I doubt too many people that even worked on this game still work at Epic. So if anybody's making any profit on Unreal Gold, it's simply just corporate people. people who really had nothing to do with the creative activity. People who literally, when I start talking about management, literally don't do anything worth any money. Not in my opinion.
Is there trouble?
Anyways, let's move on. Your Game has an article, the notorious 80s trading card series Garbage Pail Kids is being turned into a game, coming to mobile soon. So, I don't know if Garbage Pail Kids really is best described as a trading card. Because I guess it is. I guess that's what trading cards used to be. Is you would open up packs, you'd get different versions of things, and then you would, if you had duplicates or didn't like one of the cards, you'd trade it with your friends. I guess it makes a little bit more sense than calling them collectible cards, because then that just gets too close to collectible card games. You can take a very obvious marketing term was introduced when they started calling them collectible cards. What to say really about the Garbage Pail Kids? There's a terrible movie about it. It was always a kind of surreal, macabre collection of characters. One would hope that through the process of this being a mobile game, they would make new cards, assuming that they haven't always been making new cards. The quote here is, "It will be a card collecting role-playing game that will see players virtually battling with cards from the original late 1980s game." So it might be like a Pokemon RPG type thing where you collect them all and use them to battle, or it might be just this ever-going card collecting game. Like it could have puzzle elements, like Tower of Saviors was one I played, where you got cards and you fought with characters that were represented by cards, but the cards really didn't play a big role as much as the puzzle matching element did.
Hello.
I do have to say though that Garbage Pail Kids is probably not a great influence on kids or good for them, and in all honesty, I think every generation should have their own separate form of garbage entertainment instead of falling back to a reminiscent or feeling that their parents might have. Like, really, this Garbage Pail Kids are for 80s kids. There should have been something in the 90s for 90s kids, which would probably have been Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh! There should have been something for 2000 kids, and there shouldn't really be a resurgence. We should move forward and perhaps get even slightly better on our quality of even the garbage entertainment, which Garbage Pail Kids were definitely some garbage entertainment. They were very expensive packs for no reason. It was a counter baseball cards. So if your kid was into baseball, they wouldn't have been in the Garbage Pail Kids. If they were in the Garbage Pail Kids, they probably weren't into baseball. And
amazing.
It really is. It seems like it is the product of a very specific deranged artist, and I say deranged in the nicest way possible, as most artists are slightly deranged. And it's almost the equivalent if they told me a Fritz the Cat, not Fritz the Cat, well, maybe even Fritz the Cat. If they told me that there was going to be a new Betty Boop cartoon or game, or a new Steamboat Willie cartoon, even an old Popeye, a new Popeye cartoon, it just seems like it's already come and gone. The time for those type of things. It's time to move forward, not back. Moving on, PC Gamer has an article. Good Old Games as a hot selection of visual novels, and Sunrider Mask of Arcadis is free. So, the quote subtitle is, Manga Gamer said Steam is growingly unreliable for small and independent developers, and so Manga Gamer in particular has decided to partner with Good Old Games. Now it's important to remember, Good Old Games specifically hand selects and approves their games. They are very much into the curation business, a lot more than Steam is, for sure. So when Good Old Games is directly partnering with Manga Gamer, and they know the product that they're selling, which arguably Valve did too, because it's not like Manga Gamer is a small company that nobody's ever heard of. But this is as much of a thumbs up and sign of approval from Good Old Games as you possibly could give it. Now, the bigger question that I didn't get here is, will they be censored versions like the Steam versions, or will they be full uncensored, no patch needed type releases? The quote here is, in the long run, we hope to transition our full Steam catalog to Good Old Games, and we hope other developers will consider reaching out to them too. We want fans everywhere to always have a means and goodies. Now, transitioning is an interesting phrase, because that indicates to me that they are leaving Steam voluntarily, and that doesn't really solve anything for the Steam problem. If Steam gets what it wants by simply threatening to kick somebody off, and then that just spooks people enough that they leave voluntarily. Like that's not a solution. So I'd hate to see Manga Gamer's games leave Steam, but maybe that's what has to happen in the short term. Let's see. So remember, Sunrider Mask of Arcadis is free, and the rest of the games are on sale until May 29th. The games are Sunrider Liberation Day, Sunrider Academy, Fault Milestone 1, Fault Milestone 2, Side Above. All of these seem to be 66% off, or one is 50% off. So you're not getting huge discounts, but you're not getting bad discounts either.
I am one with the candle.
Didn't quite play that. Eden Asterix is $67, and then Higurashi When They Cry, Who Chapter 1 through 5 are each on sale, and Higurashi When They Cry is probably their most recognizable visual novel, selling for between $4.50 and $6 with 25% off on each chapter. So I recognize Higurashi, I recognize Eden, I recognize Fault. Sunrider I don't recognize. So those are some major visual novels that get recommended by Steam quite a lot. They are, I assume, highly rated and highly popular. And so hopefully this will spook Steam enough that they will rethink what they're doing. But arguably Steam already kind of has rethought what they're doing, so there's not too much more you can do.
I don't need any of you. Job's done.
We'll just have to wait and see. I guess is all you can do. I would also want to say that it's better. The good old games stepped up, and in fact I specifically said last stream, it's like I'm surprised good old games didn't step up as just an advertisement pitch and say, we've got these games, we'll do them without DRM, our service is better. Good old games is the #2 biggest platform for selling PC games, so them stepping up is helpful. A lot more than, say, Nutaku, where Nutaku is a Steam for sex games only, to the point where they may not even allow visual novels that don't have sex in them. Like, that's not ideally how that works. Like, I don't think a platform only for sex games serves the vast majority of people, because the vast majority of people aren't such perverts, which again is a phrase I love to say lovingly. But most people aren't so obsessed with sex games that they buy only sex games. Like The Witcher 3 is also a great example of that, where The Witcher 3 does have sex scenes in it. If you can't get that on Nutaku, which I bet you can, then you're still split between two different storefronts. And that's inherently what I don't want. Like, I don't want it in real life either. I don't want to have to go to one grocery store to get half my groceries and another grocery store to get the other half. We've got a game curated pretty well today, in the past couple days, so we don't have a ton of games on Steam, and hopefully they're going to be slightly more relevant and more important. We have a game called Arlo the Rabbit. It looks like a black and white Game Boy game with some animation that is a little suspect even for a tiny black and white Game Boy aesthetic. It's a bunny rabbit platformer. I wonder if you made a bad game and it didn't sell because the graphics were bad, if you placed a filter over it to make it look like a Game Boy game, would that potentially sell more? I could see people doing that, honestly, just re-releasing something in a different format. A suspicious number of 5 positive reviews for $2.99, and this is the only game from this developer, and there's no discounts on it. See, I just don't get the point of going black and white. Like, if you're gonna make a platformer, make a platformer, put it in color. There's just some levels of quality that you can't go backwards on for nostalgia. And here is the trailer is even showing a Game Boy Color, but the game is black and white. Arguably, it may not even be limiting itself to the 4 palette grayscale that Game Boys had, because there was a full black, full white, light gray, and a dark gray. Cannot recommend Arlo the Rabbit, but in fairness, I think to me it did look like it was an actual effort. Next game we have is called White Veil Defender, and it's a tower defense game. Now that I look at it, I kept looking at this and going, this is a weird looking thing, but now I get it. Took me a while. $7.99 for a tower defense game with no reviews. No surprise there.
I don't need any of you.
We're starting to see a release of more tower defense games. It's been a couple of months, I guess. This developer's made nothing else, by the way. I don't know why people are going in cycles here, but it seems like they definitely are creating games that we already know have been fully saturated on the Steam marketplace. Gematsu has an article, Bandai Namco trademarks Greed Adventure in Japan. Greed Adventure might be something as simple as a rename for Penny Pinching Princess, but it might be a totally new game too. The trademark doesn't really say anything. It's just white Japanese letters that I assume say Greed Adventure below with white English letters that say Greed Adventure.
Job's done.
Let's keep going. We have a game called Math Speed Challenge on Steam. It looks like garbage. It's hard to even a second think about or evaluate educational games on Steam. They just kind of don't work. Not the way I'd like them to work, at least. But part of the problem certainly is that people who make educational like games, they often try to make them educational so they'll sell while still putting in the minimal amount of effort that so many developers seem to have. This developer has made only 2 games that have ever even gotten reviewed enough to be reviewed, and they have mixed reviews. One of their games is free to play. They also have made a game called Math Problems Challenge that came out May 23rd, the exact same day as Math Speed Challenge came out, so they're flooding the market of Steam. Inherently, it's so ridiculous for any developer, any of them, like even the biggest of the biggest developers do not need the authority to release the same multiple games on the same day. Steam Direct people should be limited to 1 game per month, and as Valve gets more confidence, for people like EA or Ubisoft that might be a publisher that would release games maybe 2 games a week at most. Like, let's be realistic here. And then anytime any company like Ubisoft or EA says, well, we've got this whole back catalog of games we would like to put on Steam, but we want to do it all at the same time as a big push, that should just be like, okay, let's see what you're doing, we'll pre-approve that. But by default, just in the programming say you're limited, you're capped. There has to be a limit already, because we have yet to see instances where somebody puts hundreds or thousands of Steam games on the same day, although we have seen some instances close to that. But they need to definitely turn that down. Excuse me, I might be getting sick too. PC Gamer's coverage of the Hearthstone laser rounds of nerfs doesn't even list all the nerfs, so that's a useless article. I am not getting anywhere with this. Well, I guess at the end of the day, all I need to do is play the game, play the cards.
You require my assistance?
Gematsu has an article. Kimco? I'm not sure I've heard of this company. KMCO announces a visual novel Saiyaku, S-A-I-A-K-U, Naru, Saiyaku, Ningen ni Sasuga for PS4.
What to do?
Can I translate what that just said in any form or fashion?
How long can this go on? How long can this go on? Can this go on?
Let's see, what is this visual novel about, though? Like, visual novels keep on happening. They certainly are never gonna stop.
Aha!
Protagonist, the player, is named Hiyoma. He is unable to see any living thing outside of Kuro, the boy who cannot see other people, and the girl who cannot be seen by others start living in support of each other, but one day a disaster struck and the two in their peaceful daily lives collapsed into disaster grows when Hayama is as its center and looms before him as an inescapable fate. Continue fighting against it, the boy will eventually have to make a decision. So it seems like a star-crossed lovers type story with a magical twist to it. So, not a lot to say in that announcement. It could be that this is based on a manga. It could be that it's based on a light novel. It's just not a lot to say. Similarly, as it seems, there's not, I think, going to be a lot of news today, and so we're going to have a potentially more on-track stream today. Furthermore, it doesn't really kill me to skip this for now and move over to the European account, and so that's what I'm going to do. That may mean that we'll have, it will mean, if I don't come back and do this daily quest, that we'll have 3 things we do on Friday, and we all know nobody ever shows up on Friday, but nobody showed up on the chat today either, so I don't believe I got notifications today either. Surprise, surprise, YouTube still doesn't freaking know what it's doing. Maybe I should do an experiment where I stop the clickbait titles and see if maybe that is stopping the announcements, but in all seriousness, I don't think that's the case, because it's just YouTube themselves has said that they're not notifying people, and they just admitted it at this point. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me even more, gift me a game or gift me a gift card on Steam. Remember, the summer sale is approaching. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.